The stars looked beautiful through the windows of the Pathfinder. Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair, watching the empty space around them. He had been doing this job for 2 years now, leading a small crew of 12 people through unknown parts of the galaxy. Most days were quiet. Today would be different. Lisa Hayes worked at her science station, checking readings from a nearby planet. She was the smartest person Jake had ever met. Her brown hair was tied back, and her green eyes focused on the screen in front of her. She had found something interesting, some rare minerals that Earth needed badly, the kind of discovery that made these long trips worth it. Dan Cooper stood near the door, arms crossed over his chest. He was the security officer, though most days there was nothing to secure. He was a big man, former military with short black hair and a scar on his left cheek. He looked bored, which Jake knew meant he was actually very alert. Old soldiers never really relaxed in space. The alarm made everyone jump. Not a loud alarm, just a soft beep that meant another ship was approaching. Jake sat up straight and checked his screens. A vessel was coming toward them, much bigger than the Pathfinder. Lisa pulled up the data quickly. "It's not from Earth," she said. "Not from any human colony. The design is completely different." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact with aliens. This was what they had hoped for. What every human explorer dreamed about. They had learned other species existed, had seen evidence of them, but meeting them face to face was rare. He took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "Open a channel," he said. "Let's say hello." The face that appeared on the screen was not what Jake expected. The alien had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on its face. Its skin was blue and smooth like a dolphin. When it spoke, the computer translated the words into English. "Human vessel, this is Captain Velthor of the Harmony's Light. You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded." Jake blinked. That was not the greeting he had prepared for. "Captain Velthor, I'm Commander Jake Morrison. We're on a peaceful exploration mission. Is there a problem?" Velthor made a sound like clicking. The computer said it was laughter. "The problem is simple, human. You have something we want. Your navigation data and your cargo. Give them to us, and we will let you leave with your lives." The words hung in the air. Lisa turned to look at Jake, her eyes wide. Dan moved closer, his hand resting on the weapon at his belt. Jake kept his face calm, but inside he was thinking fast. This was not first contact. This was a robbery. "We're in neutral space," Jake said slowly. "There are laws against piracy. The Collective won't allow this." Velthor clicked again. "The Collective is very far away, human, and you are very small. You have one of your Earth hours to decide. Surrender or die." The screen went black. Jake stood up and turned to his crew. Lisa looked scared. Dan looked angry. The rest of the crew were watching him, waiting for orders. He was their leader, and they needed him to have a plan. "Options," he said simply. Lisa spoke first. "They have better weapons than us. Better shields. If we fight, we'll lose." Dan shook his head. "If we surrender, they'll probably kill us anyway. Pirates don't leave witnesses." Jake walked to the window and looked at the other ship. It was 4 times bigger than the Pathfinder, with weapons that could tear them apart. But something in his gut told him not to give up. Humans didn't survive on Earth by giving up. They survived by fighting, by using their brains, by refusing to quit even when things looked impossible. "Tell me about their ship," he said to Lisa. "Everything you can see." Lisa's fingers moved across her keyboard. Data filled her screen. "Their shields are strong, but they have a standard configuration. 3 generators overlapping fields. There's a weak point where they meet, but it moves as the ship rotates. Can we hit it? Maybe, if we're very lucky and very precise." Jake turned to Dan. "If they board us, can we stop them?" Dan thought for a moment. "In a straight fight, no. But this is our ship. We know every corridor, every room, every hiding place. If we're smart about it, we can make them regret coming inside." Jake nodded slowly. A plan was forming in his mind. It was risky, maybe crazy, but it was better than just giving up. He looked at his crew, at the people who had trusted him to keep them safe. They deserved better than to die here in empty space. "Here's what we're going to do," he said. "We're going to fight back." Lisa looked surprised. "Jake, we can't win." "Maybe not," he admitted. "But we're human. We come from Earth. Do you know what the galaxy calls Earth?" She shook her head. "A death world. A planet so dangerous that most species can't even survive there. We evolved fighting predators, surviving disasters. adapting to things that should have killed us. We didn't get to the top of our food chain by giving up when things got hard. He saw something change in their eyes. Fear was still there, but now there was something else too. Pride. Determination. The same thing that had helped humans survive ice ages and plagues and wars. The thing that made them human. Dan, I need you to set up defensive positions throughout the ship. Use every trick you know. Lisa, study their shields. Find me that weak point and keep tracking it. Everyone else get ready. We're about to show these pirates why you don't mess with humans. The next hour passed quickly. Dan and his team transformed the Pathfinder into a trap. They depressurized sections, set up ambush points, and prepared weapons. Lisa worked on the shield problem, running calculations over and over. Jake sent a message to Earth, knowing it would take weeks to arrive, but wanting someone to know what had happened here. When Velthor's deadline arrived, Jake was ready. He opened the channel and looked at the alien captain with steady eyes. We've made our decision, Jake said. We won't surrender. If you want our ship, you'll have to take it. Velthor's 4 eyes widened in surprise. Then he clicked with laughter again. Foolish human. You cannot win. Maybe, Jake said, but you're about to learn something important about humans. We don't know how to give up. And when you corner us, when you give us no choice but to fight, we become something you should be very afraid of. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Here we go. Remember, we're Deathworlders. Let's show them what that means. The first shot from the Harmony's light hit their shields and the battle began. The Pathfinder shook hard when the alien weapon hit. Sparks flew from one of the control panels and Jake held tight to his chair. The lights flickered but stayed on. Lisa worked fast at her station checking the damage. Starboard thruster is gone, she said. They're not trying to destroy us yet. That was a warning shot. Jake watched the alien ship on his screen. Velthor was playing with them, showing his power. The Xanthari captain probably thought humans would panic now, would beg for mercy. He didn't understand who he was dealing with. Return fire, Jake ordered. Target the shield junction point Lisa found. Dan pressed the firing button. The Pathfinder's weapons were old compared to alien technology. They fired physical bullets, not energy beams. Most spacefaring species had stopped using projectile weapons thousands of years ago, but bullets still worked, and they worked well. The shots hit the Harmony's light exactly where Lisa had calculated. The shields absorbed them easily, but Jake saw what he wanted to see. A tiny flicker, a small weakness where the 3 shield generators overlapped. It was there for just a second, but it was there. Again, he said. Same spot. Keep hitting it. More bullets flew across space. Velthor probably thought the humans were stupid, wasting ammunition on shields that could take the hits all day. But Jake wasn't trying to break through, not yet. He was learning, watching, timing the pattern of how the shields rotated and shifted. Lisa suddenly grabbed his arm. Jake, they're preparing to fire their main weapon. If that hits us, we're finished. How long do we have? 30 seconds, maybe less. Jake made a decision. Cut all power except life support. Make it look like we're dead in space. Lisa's hand shook as she pressed the buttons. The Pathfinder went dark. The engine stopped. The weapons powered down. Through the window, Jake could see they were drifting, looking helpless and defeated. He hoped Velthor would take the bait. He did. On the alien ship, Velthor saw the human vessel go quiet. He clicked with satisfaction and ordered his boarding team to prepare. Why waste ammunition destroying the ship when he could take it intact? The humans had given up just like he knew they would. Primitives always did. 20 Xanthari warriors gathered in the airlock. They wore powered armor that made them look bigger and stronger. Their weapons could burn through metal. They were professionals, trained soldiers who had done this many times before. They felt confident as they crossed the empty space between the 2 ships. Inside the Pathfinder, Dan waited in the dark. His team of 4 security officers was with him, hiding in places the aliens wouldn't expect. They had turned off their heat signatures using special suits. They barely breathed. They were doing what humans did best, being patient predators waiting for prey. The aliens cut through the Pathfinder's airlock easily. Their armor scanners showed nothing. No movement, no heat, no life signs. The corridor ahead was dark and silent. The team leader signaled his warriors forward. They moved in perfect formation, weapons ready, checking every corner. They passed right by the ventilation shaft where Dan was hiding. They walked under the ceiling panel where Katie Rogers crouched, a young security officer with blonde hair and ice blue eyes. They didn't check the maintenance access where Alex Turner waited, his finger on the trigger of his weapon. Dan counted to 3 in his head. Then he gave the signal, a quick flash of light from his suit. Everything happened at once. 4 humans dropped from impossible hiding places. The aliens had scanned for threats at eye level, in the corridors, in the obvious places. They never thought to check the small spaces, the areas too cramped for any reasonable being to hide. But humans weren't reasonable. They were Deathworlders, and they could squeeze into places that shouldn't fit them. Dan's first shot hit an alien's armor joint, the weak point where the arm connected to the body. The armor was built to stop energy weapons, but a high-speed bullet at close range was different. The alien went down with a cry of pain. Katie shot another one in the leg joint. Alex took out a third with 2 quick shots to the chest plate, cracking it. The aliens panicked. They had trained for combat against other species, against enemies who fought in predictable ways. They weren't ready for humans who attacked from shadows, who aimed for weak points with surgical precision, who moved with a speed that seemed impossible. 3 aliens down in 5 seconds. The rest turned and ran back toward the airlock. Their training said to retreat and regroup when facing unknown threats. But running meant turning their backs, and that was a mistake. Dan didn't chase them. He just watched them go, breathing hard. Katie checked the fallen aliens, making sure they weren't getting back up. Alex reloaded his weapon with steady hands. That went well, Alex said quietly. That was the easy part, Dan replied. They'll come back with more next time. On the Harmony's light, Velthor couldn't believe what he was seeing. His warriors were retreating, running from a handful of humans. The survivors were talking fast, their words tumbling over each other in panic. They spoke of humans who appeared from nowhere, who moved through spaces that should be empty, who fought with a ferocity that seemed insane, who smiled while fighting, actually smiled like they were enjoying it. Velthor's second officer, a nervous creature named Pix, pulled up data on human homeworlds. His 4 eyes went wide as he read. Captain, their planet is classified as Class 12 Deathworld. The gravity is twice what we're comfortable with. The atmosphere contains poison we can't breathe. The surface is covered in predators and disasters. So, Velthor snapped. So these humans evolved to survive that. Their bodies are built for a world trying to kill them. They're stronger than us, faster than us, and they don't think like civilized species. They think like hunters. Velthor felt something he hadn't felt in years, fear, real fear. He looked at the dark human ship and realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had cornered a predator, had given it no choice but to fight back, and now it was showing him what it could do. Prepare another boarding team, he ordered, trying to sound confident. Triple the size. Heavy weapons. Burn them out. But even as he gave the order, he wondered if he had just made things worse, because now the humans knew he wasn't going to stop. And that meant they had no reason to hold back either. Lisa worked fast at her science station while the aliens prepared their second attack. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, analyzing every piece of data she could find about the Harmony's light. She had been studying their shields since the first shot, learning how they worked, looking for weaknesses. I think I have something, she said to Jake. Their shield system is automated. It responds to threats by moving power around to reinforce wherever it detects danger. Jake leaned over her shoulder. Can we shut it down? No, but I can trick it. If I send the right signal, I can make their sensors think they're being hit from multiple angles. The system will redistribute power to deal with fake attacks, leaving real weak spots open. How long do you need? Give me 5 minutes. Jake nodded and turned to the communications officer, a quiet man named Pete Davis with red hair and freckles. Pete, start broadcasting a distress signal. Tell anyone listening what's happening here. Make sure you include coordinates. Pete looked confused. There's no one close enough to help us. I know. But Velthor doesn't know that. Maybe it'll make him nervous. While Lisa worked on her plan, Dan prepared for the second boarding attempt. He knew the aliens would come harder this time, with more soldiers and bigger weapons. The trick that worked before wouldn't work twice. He needed something new. Katie, seal off sections B through E, he ordered. Vent the atmosphere. Alex, rig the power conduits in Corridor 3 to overload on my signal. Everyone else fall back to defensive position Beta. His team moved quickly, each person knowing exactly what to do. They had practiced emergency drills 100 times during the long trip from Earth. Now those drills would save their lives. The second alien boarding team was much larger. 40 warriors this time with heavy armor and weapons meant to destroy, not capture. Their leader, a veteran soldier named Crix, had listened carefully to the survivors from the first team. He thought he understood what he was facing now. He was wrong. The aliens entered the Pathfinder cautiously, scanning everything. This time they checked the ceiling, the vents, the maintenance shafts. They found nothing. The corridors were empty. Crix moved his team forward slowly, ready for anything. They made it 3 corridors deep when Katie triggered the atmospheric vent. The air rushed out into space with a howling sound. Alarms screamed. The alien suits protected them, but the sudden decompression threw them off balance, sent equipment flying, created chaos. In that moment of confusion, Alex triggered the power overload. Sparks exploded from the walls. Electrical fire danced across metal. 3 aliens got caught in the discharge, their armor smoking as circuits fried. The team scattered, looking for safety. That's when they realized they were standing in a section of the ship where the floor was damaged. Dan had weakened it earlier, and now the weight of 40 armored soldiers was too much. The floor gave way with a grinding shriek of metal. 10 aliens fell into the cargo bay below. The rest backed away from the hole, reforming their lines. Crix was shouting orders, trying to maintain control. His training said to push forward, to complete the mission. But his instincts, the deep survival instincts that all living things have, told him to retreat. Before he could decide, the humans attacked again. Not from hiding places this time, but from defensive positions with clear firing lines. Dan and his team had set up behind reinforced barriers, with ammunition stockpiles and escape routes planned. They fought like soldiers now, not like assassins. The aliens had better armor and better weapons, but the humans had advantages too. They knew the ship's layout perfectly. They knew which walls would stop energy weapons and which wouldn't. They knew where the gravity plates were weakened, where the lighting could be controlled, where every camera and sensor was located. Katie shot out the lights, plunging the corridor into darkness. The alien suits had night vision, but it took a second to activate. A second was enough. Dan and his team fired from memory, aiming at sounds and heat signatures using instincts developed from thousands of years of hunting in the dark. More aliens fell. The rest finally broke and ran, abandoning their wounded, abandoning their mission, just trying to escape the nightmare the human ship had become. Crix made it back to the airlock with only half his team. He was shaking, his confidence destroyed. In 20 years of military service, he had never faced anything like this. The humans hadn't just fought back. They had turned their own ship into a weapon, using every advantage, exploiting every weakness. On the Harmony's light, Velthor watched his second boarding team retreat in failure. Around him, his crew were whispering. They were scared. He could see it in their body language, hear it in their voices. They had thought this would be easy. Now they knew better. Pix was reading more data about humans, his voice getting higher with each discovery. Captain, humans are persistence hunters. On their world, they chase prey for days until it drops from exhaustion. Their bodies can keep going when ours would fail, and their pain tolerance is 3 times higher than ours. Velthor slammed his hand down. Enough, I'm ending this. Charge the main weapon. We'll destroy them from here. But Captain, the cargo, no, forget the cargo. I want them dead. The plasma cannon began to power up. It would take 2 minutes to reach full charge, and then nothing would save the Pathfinder. Velthor felt satisfaction replace his fear. He might not get what he wanted, but at least these dangerous humans would be eliminated. Then Pete's distress signal reached its destination. 3 ships appeared on the long-range scanners, attracted by the unusual activity in the neutral zone. One of them was a collective patrol vessel, the very authority Velthor had said was too far away to matter. Velthor's 4 eyes widened in horror. The patrol ship would have recorded everything. His illegal weapons, his attack on a peaceful vessel, everything. His career was over. His life might be too, depending on how harsh the collective wanted to be. Power down all weapons, he said quietly. Prepare to be boarded by collective authorities. On the Pathfinder, Jake watched the alien ship's weapons go dark. He allowed himself a small smile. Stand down from combat alert. I think we won. Dan appeared on the bridge, covered in sweat and breathing hard. Did we really just survive that? We did more than survive, Lisa said, looking at her screens. We won. A small human crew just defeated a ship 4 times our size. Jake thought about what that meant. They had been the first humans to fight aliens in space combat. And they had won not through superior technology, but through tactics, creativity, and sheer determination not to give up. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. Something Velthor would never forget. When you corner a Deathworlder, when you give them no choice but to fight, you better be prepared for the consequences. The collective patrol ship was massive, twice the size of the Harmony's light. Its name was the Vigilant Justice, and it was commanded by Enforcer Quindal, a being who had spent 50 years keeping peace in the galaxy. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow. His species was known for being fair but strict. Quindal's team boarded both ships at the same time. They recorded everything, took statements from everyone, and collected data from the sensor logs. The evidence was clear and damning for Velthor. Jake sat in what was left of the Pathfinder's meeting room, a bandage on his forehead from where he had hit his head during the fighting. Across from him sat Quindal, reviewing his tablet with careful attention. "Commander Morrison," the Enforcer said, his voice deep and calm, "you understand that you fought back against a superior force and won. This is highly unusual." "We defended ourselves," Jake said simply. "We had no choice." "Indeed. But the manner in which you did so is what interests me." Quindal pulled up video from the Zenthari boarding teams. "You used tactics that none of my analysts have seen before. Hiding in impossible places, setting traps throughout your own vessel, fighting with what appears to be joy despite the danger." Jake smiled slightly. "That's just how humans are. We don't give up easy." Quindal studied him for a long moment. "I have been reviewing data about your homeworld, Earth. It is classified as a Class 12 death world. I must confess I had never heard of humans before today. We were not aware your species had achieved space travel." "We're new to this," Jake admitted. "This is only our third exploration mission outside our own solar system, and already you have encountered pirates and defeated them." Quindal made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Tell me, Commander, what is Earth like?" Jake thought about how to explain it. It's beautiful and terrible at the same time. We have storms that can destroy entire cities, earthquakes that reshape the land, predators that hunt in packs, diseases that can kill millions. But we also have incredible diversity of life, amazing landscapes, and creatures that have adapted to survive in the harshest conditions. Humans are just one of those creatures. And this has shaped how you think, how you fight. Yes, on Earth giving up means dying, so we learn not to give up. We learn to use our brains to overcome stronger, faster, more dangerous animals. We learn to work together because alone we're actually pretty weak. Every human carries that history in them." Quindal nodded slowly. "This explains much. Captain Velthor made a critical error. He assumed that primitive technology meant primitive thinking. He did not research your species or your world. He thought you would be easy prey. He thought wrong. Indeed he did." The Enforcer stood up. "The collective owes you an apology, Commander Morrison. We should have made contact with your species properly, with diplomacy and respect. Instead, your first meeting with galactic civilization was with criminals. This is not how it should have been." Jake stood too. "What happens now?" "Velthor and his crew will be prosecuted according to collective law. Your crew will receive medical treatment and repairs for your ship, and I will be sending a full report to the Council recommending immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. Will that cause problems? Some species might not want humans in the galaxy if they think we're dangerous." Quindal's silver skin seemed to glow brighter. "Commander, the galaxy needs species like yours. Species who don't give up, who can think creatively under pressure, who fight for their survival with intelligence and courage. Yes, some will fear you, but others will respect you. And respect is how civilizations begin." Over the next few weeks, the story of the Pathfinder spread across the galaxy faster than light. It was told in trading posts and military academies, in diplomatic halls and frontier stations. With each telling, it grew a bit, the way stories do, but the core truth remained the same. A small human crew had refused to surrender. They had fought against impossible odds and won. They had shown the galaxy what Deathworlders could do when cornered. Lisa became famous among scientists. She was invited to speak at the Galactic Science Academy about human problem-solving and adaptive thinking. Universities across dozens of worlds wanted to study her methods. She turned down most invitations, but she did give one lecture that was broadcast to millions. "Humans succeed not because we're stronger or faster," she explained to an audience of alien scientists. "We succeed because we refuse to accept that problems have no solutions. On Earth, every challenge could be life or death. So we evolved to see challenges as puzzles to solve, not walls to stop us. This makes us very, very good at finding creative answers. Dan received dozens of job offers from military organizations. The Collective Security Force wanted him to train their soldiers in close-quarters combat. 3 different planetary defense forces offered him command positions. A private security company offered him enough money to retire rich. He turned them all down. "I'm an explorer," he told them all. "I joined the Pathfinder to see new things, not to teach fighting. But I appreciate the offers." Jake was the one who bore the most responsibility. As commander, he had to answer questions from Earth's government about the incident. Some politicians thought he had been too aggressive. Others thought he was a hero. He didn't care about either opinion. He had done what he needed to do to save his crew. The Pathfinder received repairs at a collective shipyard, the work done free of charge as an apology. While they waited, the crew explored the station and met dozens of alien species. Some were friendly, some were cautious. All were curious about the humans who had defeated Zenthari pirates. One evening, Jake stood at an observation window watching ships come and go. He was joined by an elderly alien, a member of a species called the Torvin who looked like walking trees with many branches. "You are the human commander," the alien said. It wasn't a question. "I am. I have lived for 300 of your years. I have seen many species rise and fall. May I offer you some advice?" Jake nodded. "Please. Your species is very young. You are strong and clever, but you are also dangerous. Not because you want to be, but because you come from a world that taught you to be. As you spread into the galaxy, you will face many challenges. Some will fear you. Some will try to use you. Some will want to destroy you before you become too powerful." "That's cheerful." The Torvin made a rustling sound that might have been laughter. "I do not tell you this to scare you. I tell you because I want you to succeed. The galaxy needs fresh perspectives. We need species who think differently, who approach problems in new ways. Humans can be that species if you are careful. What should we do? Be honest, be fair. Show the galaxy that strength does not mean cruelty. Prove that Deathworlders can be guardians, not destroyers. Do this and you will find more friends than enemies." Jake thought about those words long after the Torvin left. He thought about Earth, about humanity's long history of war and peace, of destruction and creation. He thought about what humans could become if they chose the right path. When the Pathfinder was finally repaired, Jake gathered his crew for a meeting. They sat in the renovated meeting room looking tired but proud. "We have a choice," he told them. "We can go home and report what happened, or we can continue our mission. Keep exploring. Keep representing humanity to the galaxy. It won't be easy. Word has spread about us. Everyone knows about the Deathworlders now. Some will respect that, some won't. But if we go forward, we'll be helping to shape how the galaxy sees our species." Lisa spoke first. "I'm in. We started this mission to explore and learn." "That hasn't changed," Dan nodded. "Same, I'm not running home because things got tough." One by one, the rest of the crew agreed. They had come too far, learned too much to quit now. They were explorers, and explorers pushed forward into the unknown. "Then we continue," Jake said. "But we do it smart. We make allies. We show respect. We prove that humans deserve to be here." The Pathfinder left the station a week later, heading toward new systems, new worlds, new adventures. Behind them, they left a reputation that would follow humanity for generations. Ahead of them lay the infinite possibilities of the galaxy. And somewhere in the dark between stars, Velthor sat in a collective prison, thinking about the small human ship that had destroyed his career and changed the galaxy's understanding of what primitive really meant. 3 months after the incident with the Zenthari, Jake found himself standing in a massive chamber unlike anything he had ever seen. The Galactic Council station was a structure so large it had its own gravity, its own atmosphere, its own ecosystems. Hundreds of species lived and worked here, representing their civilizations in the endless work of keeping peace among the stars. The council chamber itself was circular, with seats arranged in rising tiers like an ancient amphitheater. Each seat held a representative from a different species. Some looked almost human, others were so alien that Jake couldn't tell which end was the head. All of them were watching him with whatever sensory organs they possessed. Jake stood alone on the central platform, feeling very small. Lisa and Dan were in the observation gallery, but he couldn't see them from here. He wore his dress uniform, the dark blue one with Earth's flag on the shoulder. His hands were sweaty, but he kept them at his sides, trying to look confident. Tharquan, the council leader, sat in the highest seat. His species was ancient, one of the first to achieve space travel. He looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, beautiful and strange. When he spoke, his voice filled the chamber without being loud. Commander Jake Morrison of Earth, Tharquan said, "You have been invited here to speak about your species and your encounter with the Zenthari. The council has many questions." "I'll answer what I can, sir," Jake replied. "Let us begin with a simple question. Do humans seek conquest in the galaxy?" The question was direct, almost aggressive. Jake understood why. The Pathfinder's fight had scared some species. They saw how effectively humans could fight when cornered, and they worried about what humans might do with more advanced technology and more ships. "No," Jake said firmly. "Humans have fought wars among ourselves. We've made terrible mistakes. But we've also learned from them. We came to space looking for knowledge and friendship, not conquest. We want to be part of the galactic community, not rulers of it." A representative from a species that looked like a collection of floating crystals spoke up. "Yet you defeated a superior force with ease. You showed tactical abilities that suggest extensive military experience. How can we trust that you won't use these abilities against us?" Jake took a breath. This was the important part. With respect, we didn't win with ease. We won because we had no other choice. The Zenthari gave us two options: surrender and probably die, or fight and maybe survive. We chose to fight. Any species would have done the same, but not any species could have won, another representative said. "This is what concerns us." Tharquan raised a glowing tendril for silence. "Commander Morrison, tell us about Earth. Help us understand your world and your people." Jake nodded. He had prepared for this question. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, but to us it's home. It's a planet where life is hard and dangerous, but also incredibly diverse and beautiful. Humans evolved there over millions of years, adapting to challenges that would have destroyed weaker species. He paused, organizing his thoughts. "We developed intelligence not because we were strong, but because we were weak. We couldn't outrun predators, so we learned to outsmart them. We couldn't survive alone, so we learned to work together. We faced ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and we survived them all by being stubborn and creative." "This has made you dangerous," someone said. "It's made us survivors," Jake corrected. "There's a difference. Yes, we can fight when we need to, but we can also build, create, explore, and dream. Humans have art and music and stories. We have compassion and humor and hope. We're not just warriors. We're people who want to live and grow and learn." A small alien with big eyes spoke in a high voice. "But you smiled while fighting." The Zenthari survivors reported this. "You enjoyed the combat." Jake smiled despite himself. "That's complicated. Humans sometimes laugh or smile in dangerous situations. It's not because we enjoy hurting others. It's a stress response, a way to cope with fear. We make jokes in bad situations because humor helps us stay calm. It probably seems strange to other species, but it's just how we're built." "Tell us about human history," Tharquan requested. "Your wars and your peace." Jake spent the next hour explaining humanity's journey. He talked about the wars, not hiding the terrible things humans had done to each other. He talked about the weapons they had created, weapons so powerful they could destroy their own world. He talked about the times humans had nearly wiped themselves out through violence or greed or stupidity, but he also talked about the peace treaties, the international cooperation, the times humans had put aside their differences to solve common problems. He talked about the scientists who cured diseases, the artists who created beauty, the ordinary people who helped each other through disasters and hardship. "We're not perfect," he admitted. "We've made terrible mistakes, but we learn from them. We're better now than we were 100 years ago, and we'll be better in another 100 years. That's what matters. Not where we've been, but where we're going." The council deliberated for 3 days. During that time, Jake met with representatives from dozens of species. Some were friendly, eager to learn about humans and Earth. Others were suspicious, asking pointed questions about human intentions. A few were openly hostile, viewing humans as a threat that should be contained or eliminated. Jake was honest with all of them. He didn't try to hide humanity's flaws or exaggerate their virtues. He presented humans as they really were: complicated, contradictory, capable of both great kindness and great cruelty. A young species still learning who they wanted to be. Lisa spent her time talking with scientists and researchers. They were fascinated by human problem-solving methods and wanted to understand how Deathworld evolution shaped thinking patterns. She explained that humans were very good at pattern recognition, at seeing connections between seemingly unrelated things because on Earth, missing patterns could mean death. Dan met with military leaders from various species. They wanted to understand human combat tactics, but they were also curious about human military culture. Dan explained the concept of honor among warriors, the idea that strength should protect the weak, not exploit them. Some understood this immediately. Others found it confusing. On the third day, Tharquan summoned Jake back to the council chamber. The gallery was full of observers this time. Word had spread that the council was making a decision about humanity, and everyone wanted to witness it. Jake stood on the central platform again, his heart pounding. Lisa and Dan sat in the front row of the gallery, giving him encouraging looks. He tried to draw strength from their presence. Tharquan's voice filled the chamber. Commander Jake Morrison, the council has reached a decision regarding humanity's status in the galaxy. Jake held his breath. We recognize that humans are a young species with much to learn. We acknowledge that you come from a harsh world that has shaped you in ways both challenging and valuable. We have considered your history, your actions, and your potential. The ancient being paused, and Jake could swear the light around him pulsed with emotion. The Galactic Collective hereby extends an invitation to humanity. You are granted provisional membership, with the possibility of full membership after a period of cultural exchange and integration. You will have access to our technology, our trade networks, and our defensive alliances. In return, we ask that you share your knowledge and perspectives, particularly in areas where your unique evolution provides insight. Jake felt relief wash over him like a wave. On behalf of humanity, I accept. Thank you. There is one additional provision, Tharquan continued. Human vessels will be given a special designation in our navigation systems. A code that translates roughly to approach with caution and respect. This is not a threat or a warning of danger. It is an acknowledgement of what you are. A species that should not be underestimated or provoked. A species that, when cornered, will fight back with extraordinary determination. Some representatives clicked or hummed or made whatever sound indicated approval in their species. Others remained silent, still unsure about humans. But the decision was made, and it was binding. After the formal ceremony ended, Jake was surrounded by well-wishers and curious observers. But he managed to find his way to Lisa and Dan, who both hugged him despite the watching crowd. We did it, Lisa said, her eyes wet with tears. Humanity is officially part of the galaxy. Not just part of it, Dan added. Respected members. That's huge. Jake looked around at the incredible diversity of life in the gallery. Hundreds of species, thousands of years of history all coming together in this one place, to work toward peace and progress. And now humans were invited to join them. This is just the beginning, he said softly. We have so much to learn, so much to prove. The hard work starts now. Then let's get started, Lisa said with determination. They left the council chamber together, walking through corridors filled with aliens who now saw them as equals, not primitives or threats. The galaxy was huge and full of wonders, and humanity had just been invited to explore all of it. Behind them, in the chamber, Tharquan watched them go. He had lived for thousands of years and had seen hundreds of species join the collective, but he had a feeling about humans, a sense that they would be special. They were rough and unpolished, yes, but they had something precious. The Pathfinder received a complete upgrade at the Council Station's shipyard. New engines, better shields, advanced sensors, and weapons that actually matched what other species carried. The ship looked the same on the outside, but inside it was transformed into a vessel worthy of representing humanity in the larger galaxy. Jake stood in the new command center, running his hands over the smooth alien controls. Everything was more efficient, more powerful, more sophisticated than what they'd started with. But he felt a bit nostalgic for the old clunky systems he had learned on. It's almost too nice, Lisa said, appearing beside him. She had been working with the alien technicians to understand all the new systems. I keep thinking something will break and we'll have to fix it with duct tape and hope. Jake laughed. Those days are over. We're official now, representatives of Earth to the Galactic Collective. Does that scare you? Lisa asked quietly. The responsibility? Terrifies me, Jake admitted. Every decision we make, every first contact we have, it shapes how the galaxy sees all humans. That's a lot of pressure. You'll do fine. You already proved that with the Zinthari. That was survival. This is diplomacy. Very different skills. Dan joined them on the bridge, looking uncomfortable in his new uniform. The collective had insisted that human representatives dress in a way that commanded respect, so they all had new clothing that was somehow both formal and practical. Dan kept tugging at his collar.
"Stop fidgeting," Katie told him, following him onto the bridge.
She had been promoted to second security officer after her performance during the battle. "You look professional." "I look like I'm going to a fancy party," Dan grumbled. "I miss my old gear." "Your old gear had scorch marks and bloodstains," Alex pointed out, taking his position at the tactical station. "The new stuff is better." The rest of the crew filtered in, 12 humans who had accidentally become the first official ambassadors of their species. They were scientists, engineers, explorers, not diplomats. But they were what Earth had out here, so they would have to be enough. "Crew," Jake said, getting everyone's attention. "We've been given new orders from both Earth and the Council. We're to continue our exploration mission, but now we're also facilitating first contact between humanity and various species. We'll be visiting worlds, meeting cultures, learning everything we can." He pulled up a star map showing their planned route. "Our first stop is a planet called Viridian Prime. The inhabitants are called the Kelmar, and they're known for being peaceful traders. The Council thinks they'd be a good first official contact for us. If things go well, we might establish a trade agreement." "And if things go badly?" Pete asked. "Then we smile, apologize, and try not to start an interstellar incident," Jake replied. "No pressure." The crew laughed nervously. They all felt the weight of responsibility, but they also felt excitement. This was why they had joined the exploration program, to see new worlds and meet new species. The fact that they were doing it as official ambassadors just made it more important. The Pathfinder departed the Council station a week later. As they left, Jake received a message from Quindel, the enforcer who had investigated the Xanthari incident. "Commander Morrison," the message said, "I wanted to wish you well on your journey. What you and your crew accomplished was remarkable, but remember that it was also unusual. Most first contacts are peaceful and productive. Do not let your experience with pirates color your view of the galaxy. There is much beauty and wisdom out here, if you're willing to look for it. Safe travels." Jake appreciated the reminder. It would be easy to see the galaxy as dangerous after what they'd been through. But one bad encounter didn't define everything. He had to give other species a fair chance, just as he wanted them to give humans a fair chance. The journey to Viridian Prime took 2 weeks. The new engines made the trip much faster than their old system could have managed. During the travel time, Lisa studied everything she could find about Kelmar culture. She learned that they valued honesty above all things, that they considered lying to be the worst possible offense. She shared this information with the crew, making sure everyone understood how important it was to be truthful. When they arrived, Viridian Prime was stunning. The planet was covered in purple forests and blue oceans, with 3 small moons visible in the daytime sky. The Kelmar cities were built into the landscape rather than on top of it, blending architecture with nature in a way that was beautiful and functional. A Kelmar vessel approached to escort them to the landing area. Jake opened communications and was surprised to see that the Kelmar looked almost human, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face with recognizable features. The main differences were their purple skin and their complete lack of hair anywhere on their bodies. "Welcome to Viridian Prime," the Kelmar captain said. Her voice was melodic and warm. "I am Captain Mira. We are honored to host the first official meeting between our species." "Thank you for having us, Captain Mira," Jake replied. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison. We're looking forward to learning about your world and your people. And we about yours. The stories of your encounter with the Xanthari have reached us. They say you are formidable warriors." Jake chose his words carefully. "We defended ourselves when we had no choice. But we're not looking for conflict. We're explorers and scientists who want to build friendships across the galaxy." "Good words," Mira said approvingly. "Please follow us to the diplomatic landing zone. Our leaders are eager to meet you." The landing went smoothly. The Kelmar had prepared a welcoming ceremony that was elaborate but genuine. Their leaders gave speeches about friendship and cooperation. Jake responded with a speech about humanity's hopes for the future and their gratitude for the warm reception. Then came the actual negotiations. The Kelmar were interested in Earth's biological diversity. They had heard that Earth was a death world with an incredible variety of life forms, and they wanted to study samples and data. In return, they offered advanced agricultural techniques that could help humanity feed their growing population more efficiently. The negotiations took 3 days. Jake quickly learned that the Kelmar were tough but fair bargainers. They kept their word, but they also expected the same in return. When Jake admitted that he didn't have authority to make final decisions without consulting Earth, the Kelmar appreciated his honesty and agreed to provisional terms that could be finalized later. On the last night of their visit, the Kelmar hosted a feast in honor of their human guests. The food was strange but delicious, and the conversation flowed freely. Jake found himself sitting next to Elder Torin, one of the Kelmar's senior leaders. "You handle yourself well, Commander," Torin said. "For such a young species, you show wisdom beyond your years." "Thank you, Elder. We're still learning." "As are we all. May I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Is it true that you enjoyed fighting the Zenthari? That you smiled during combat?" Jake sighed. He had known this question would come up eventually. It's complicated. Humans sometimes smile or laugh in stressful situations, not because we're happy, but because it helps us cope with fear. We also tend to joke around during dangerous times. It's just how our brains work. Torin considered this. Fascinating. So the smile was not aggression, but stress relief. Exactly. The Zenthari interpreted it as madness, as if you enjoyed causing harm. This frightened them greatly. "I suppose it would," Jake admitted. "We didn't mean to scare them. We just wanted them to leave us alone." "Well, you succeeded." The story has spread far. Pirates throughout this sector now avoid vessels displaying Earth's flag. They fear the Deathworlders who smile in battle. Jake wasn't sure how he felt about that. On one hand, having pirates avoid them was good. On the other hand, he didn't want humanity to be known only for violence. "We're more than fighters," he said. "We're also artists and scientists and dreamers. I hope the galaxy will learn that about us too." "They will," Torin assured him. "Give it time. Reputations are built slowly, with many actions over many years. Your fight with the Zenthari was dramatic, so it spread quickly. But as you make more contacts, as you show more aspects of human nature, the full picture will emerge. Be patient." The feast continued late into the night. By the end, Jake felt genuine friendship forming between the two groups. The Kelmar had accepted humans not with fear or suspicion, but with open curiosity and respect. It was exactly the kind of first contact he had hoped for. When the Pathfinder departed Viridian Prime, they carried with them a formal treaty of friendship and cooperation, the first such document between humanity and an alien species. More importantly, they carried the knowledge that positive relationships were possible, that not every meeting would be a fight for survival. Over the next 6 months, the Pathfinder visited a dozen more worlds. Each contact was different. Some species were cautious, others enthusiastic. A few were nervous about the famous Deathworlders, but all were willing to give humans a chance. Lisa documented everything, building a comprehensive database about alien cultures, technologies, and perspectives. Her reports back to Earth helped prepare humanity for the day when more ships would venture into the galaxy. She was creating a roadmap for peaceful integration. Dan trained with security forces from several species, sharing human tactics.